Welcome to another episode of Three and a Half Critics, where three wildly unqualified and today unprepared friends and a cinema major rewrite some of Hollywood's biggest movies. Today we're tackling 2009's Avatar. I'm Josh, and I'm still actively rewatching this movie.
And I'm Epi, and I haven't rewatched this movie.
And I'm Greco, and I may or may not have watched the wrong version of this movie.
And I'm Roy, and I'm only here because Matt Damon called in sick.
What? So what are we breaking into first? We breaking into USA style economics with whatever the hell the name of the element is that I forget what it is.
Unobtainium?
Unobtainium.
That's some
Yeah.
fucking bullshit name. Who the fuck named that?
So, that comes in, I believe, I read this somewhere, this may not be correct, that
Welcome to another.
Unobtainium is a joke name within the writing industry. That basically means like a MacGuffin that is a resource. And the writers of this movie just decided to run with it, it seems.
Okay.
That may not be accurate, though.
Fucking
It-
what?
I appreciate an
hate that
in-joke.
so much.
I appreciate an in-joke as much as anyone else. That one it comes off as lazy, man.
Yeah.
I mean, I can appreciate an in joke too, but I want out of this joke. For God fucking damn it. You're welcome.
That was good.
You're welcome. See, I'm thinking with science. But no, seriously, it's like you took the UU elements that they already have in the world, and they just fucking said, yeah, you know what, UUB is, that's what it is, fuck you. What does it even do again? I forget. Someone who actually rewatched this movie, color me in.
So it's not explained in the movie, but I looked it up. It is a room temperature superconductor, is what it is explained as. Which, as someone who has experience in, chemicals and, like, material science, almost every superconductor or semiconductor is just referred to by its chemical compound. Like YBCO is... That's just what it is. It's yttrium, barium, carbon, oxygen.
Nice.
So, like... Or is beryllium? Fuck off, I don't know the periodic table.
Close enough.
For me, it's lazy writing. If you wanted to refer to it as
Oil
like,
2.0.
they should have called it Pandorium. I mean, we
Yeah,
already
they literally
have a
could've-
real world habit of naming things after the places where they're discovered or the people who discover them, or people or places that the people who discover them like acknowledge and appreciate. It should have just been called Pandorium or Alpha Centurium or Alphium or whatever the fuck, because that's the solar system it's found in. But that's kind of getting in the weeds there. One of my biggest complaints about this movie is there is just so much exposition and, like, the video logs that Jake does don't need to happen. Because they're just exposition dumps that could be conversations with other characters that serve to also develop those characters. And, like, when Parker, the head of the RDA at this facility, brings Grace into his, like office, he holds up a chunk of unobtainium, and he's like, you know why we're here, Dr. Grace? It's to get this material, which sells for $20 a kilo. I need you to help me make the blue monkeys move so we can get it. And it's like, thank you, Parker, for explaining the basic concepts of this interstellar mining operation to one of your department heads. I'm sure she doesn't already know this information. It's just bad. It brought me out of it so many times, and like Jake's narration is so bad. He is such a good character, and then whenever he narrates, I hate him.
Oh, you should have seen the extended version I watched. That whole... the whole extra, like, 10 minutes on Earth of a futuristic world that I had never seen before was great. He gets into a bar fight while in a wheelchair. It's great. He pulls the stool out from under a guy so the guy falls on the ground, jumps out of his wheelchair, starts beating the shit out of the guy on the ground, and it is the best fight scene I've ever seen.
I do have to
Excuse
say,
me?
the scene where they are escaping Hell's Gate and like they're rolling through the facility and Jake is checking corners in a wheelchair, fucking phenomenal.
Yeah, I really should have checked with you guys before I watched this version, but I realized quickly it was no longer on Disney Plus when I thought it was still on Disney Plus. So I had to
You can
find
rent
it.
it for like $3 on Amazon.
Yes,
Alright,
I totally did that legally, watched a version of it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Sound like a Twitch streamer here with
Well-
a legal copy of Pokemon Ruby.
yeah.
Well, there you have it, kids. Watch the extended version for probably the best fight scene since I don't know.
Since, I don't know, Lieutenant
several
Dan
computer
trying to beat the
viruses.
shit out of Forrest Gump.
Yeah. Well, I also have
True.
many things to say about the battle scene in the back half of this movie, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a whole extra, like, underlying plot line with the extended version that it was interesting. I think it helped a bit. I don't know if we want to talk about it or just ignore all the extra shit in my version.
Just give us like a 30-second synopsis.
So, there's the school. In the original, they talk about the school briefly, that Grace was a
Yeah.
teacher there. In this version, they actually, when they land in the forest before Jake gets ran off by the jaguar thing, they actually are out the school looking for materials inside of the building. There's like bullet holes in the wall, and Jake's like, "Yo, what happened here?" And they're like, "Let's just go. We gotta leave." And then they find out later that there's a whole plot line about the main character's I forget what her name is, but the main blue person woman that he's
Mysteria?
yeah, she has a sister that was murdered by the group in that school, and that's why the school fell apart. That they don't go into in the original version, which I actually thought kind of helped a bit with the story.
Well, see, that actually kind of tracks with like some notes I had, which was so like the scientists talk a lot about how like they're not making like a huge amount of progress with the Navi, and then like Jake just rolls up and he's like, "Fuck yeah!" like, and just gets accepted and like, you know, becomes part of the tribe, and you can tell the difference is Jake is learning from the tribe rather than being a human who's trying to teach the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no acknowledgement of that, which is really weird. Nobody talks about why he is making so much progress so rapidly in comparison to, you know, canonically humans have been on Pandora for like 50 to 70 years before this movie starts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just never addressed. And I would love to see dialogue around the history of why the humans and the Na'vi have not made better connections so far. And like in the original movie, they just kind of hand wave that away with, "Oh yeah, we tried at school, it didn't work, fuck them."
Yeah. Yeah, which I did like that little aspect that I kept being very confused as to whether was this in the original? Did I just not watch this properly? But
I feel like I feel like it, which I mean, I believe is what it's meant to do. The idea of them not learning from the people that are there are like inherently, it's like the inherent imperialistic nature of whatever. But gets half political, so I don't want to branch out too far into this. But like,
Oh
that
no, we're going.
is okay, sweet. That is probably super the reason why that happens. It's something that parallels in real life, right? You have different forms of researchers and different sets of people that will go into places like the Amazon forest and some of the tribes in the Amazon and just like try to teach them about things that they have and not learn from the tribe themselves and not respect the tribe themselves. I think that's probably a huge major
Yeah.
reason why they didn't. The only thing that I don't like too, though, is not Jake, the other person, the one that he works under,
Grace?
Grace.
Grace.
Sigourney Weaver?
Yeah, she's, if I remember correctly, which again, remember correctly is a strong word. She once had a relationship similar to that, and then they take it back, and I forget what the exact mechanism they take it back with was. But I thought it was something to do with the military doing something that Grace didn't want them to do.
So they explained that she used to be allowed, like, I don't remember if they say she got, like, all the way to the home tree, but she was, like, much deeper involved with the Na'vi before, like, the whole, like, school incident and, like,
Yes.
the recent degradation of, relations. But again, they really don't go into it that much in
Yeah.
this movie.
Yeah, which that whole scene in the extended version covers.
Yeah.
Because then there's also a part later where she's talking to Jake about it, and she was like, I was there at the school when it happened. The kids thought that I could protect them, and I couldn't. The soldiers just killed them anyway. So they all went to her. So that it really showed that breakdown of the relationship, which is missing in the original.
Yeah. That's good. And
The Zack Snyder cut fixes itself. Sorry.
But yeah, I definitely agree with the narration thing, because that's the first, like, it's just always so boring and lazy when it's just like starts out narration. At least the audio logs, like him, actually serve a purpose. They kind of make sense.
yeah.
As narration, it is still a little lazy, but I like it better than just him talking to us in the beginning. And then
forget
throughout.
them too halfway through.
Yeah,
Okay.
they are very cleverly disguised narration, but they are still narration.
Yeah,
Um,
I at least like the effort put in to hide it that way. But yeah.
But, like, there's one audio log where he's talking about, like, oh, like, I think it's, like, day 27, but the days are starting to blur together. And I'm like, why do you need to tell us this?
Yeah.
Why can't we have a scene where Grace is acting, like, more concerned with your health? Like, there's a scene where she puts him to bed, and there's a scene where she feeds him, but the scene where she puts him to bed is kind of like almost like a proud mommy moment. And then, like, the scene where she feeds him off is played, like, for tension, because that's when his avatar is about to get run over by mining equipment. There's no real moment where, like, we see Jake kind of falling apart in the human world and how that actually interacts with his co-workers and associates, which I think is something that should be explored a bit more. And you could easily do that by just not doing that audio log and having a scene where Grace talks to Jake like,
Mhm.
hey, you need to calm down a little bit. And he'd be like, no, I have a thing I need to do.
Yeah. No, I definitely see that. 'Cause you could replace most of those audio logs with other interactions with the actual people and the characters. Because there's also that, like, underlying subplot for a bit where the other lanky guy, scientist guy, Norm, is just mad at him because he's doing well with the Na'vi. And it's not acknowledged except for a single narration where he's like, Norm's attitude has improved. He likes me again. And, like, what was the point of that? It was just kind of thrown in there for no reason, and they could have at least had those maybe interactions with tension, and then to have them make up at one point, being like, "Yeah, I'm sorry, I was just jealous." You know, it just, I don't know. There's definitely a better way to do that and show it rather than being like just literally explaining it through the narration.
Yeah.
I also feel like everyone else in the Avatar project is just like completely stripped by the wayside. Like I don't remember them at all, aside from those two.
They really don't have much to do.
No.
Yeah.
And that's actually one of my notes here is we spend the three like avatar drivers we spend the most time with are Jake, Norm, and Grace.
Mhm.
But in the opening scene where Jake first gets into his avatar body and like busts out of the lab and is like running through, it's like an outdoor gym. There's
Yeah.
like 15
Yeah.
other avatars running around,
Yeah.
and it's like, what are you people doing?
Yeah.
Like, where are the rest of you the rest of this movie?
Yeah.
And you can play that into the fucking treachery too. Sorry, I shouldn't swear as much as I do. But so you can play that into like the treachery of the military too, if you wanted to.
Mhm.
You know, imagine this final battle, or they're prepping for this final battle, and then all of a sudden, there's a handful of the Na'vi that just start turning on people because they are the other drivers.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like it was such a it was a tool that they just did nothing with.
Yeah. They do establish that like the Na'vi can tell like on sight an avatar from a Na'vi. So I don't know if you'd ever really be able to write in like a treachery arc super well without taking actual time to develop those characters. But I think it would be really cool if you had avatars like riding into battle with the military. Like just coming in with the war fleet would be a good way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
in that
still-
final fight, you
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
I still would want more presence before you do that.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Like
You
you
need to
can't. I
develop
don't.
it somehow.
that's
I
a
don't
moment
think
you
just
build
adding
to.
them in.
No, it's a moment you build to. But
Yeah.
now we're just adding things to this 3-hour movie.
Yeah.
Well,
Um,
that's fair.
Hey, look, this movie
Let's
gets
take
compared
some
to
shit
dance.
out.
This movie gets compared with Dances to Wolves all the time, and that movie's 4 hours, so we have a little bit of a budget here.
And better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also I
That's what I said.
Mhm.
I
That's what we're here
also
for.
had a thought about, again, I guess it's more maybe kind of adding to the movie, but the other tribes, there's really no inclination
Oh,
that there
yeah.
are other tribes until the fight scene. Then they're like, okay, time to go get all those other tribes that we totally told you that
Yeah.
exist. Like the entire like first 90% of the movie, I just think, okay, these are the people. They are one tribe. Like, oh no, we actually
It
have a bunch
is-
of us all over the place.
Yeah,
Like-
it's like an ex machina. It really is.
Oh, we can get more people to fight. Oh, you can? Really?
Why haven't you before?
The only thing they mention beforehand is when they first get attacked by Taruk. They go and look at the Taruk skull, and Natiri is like, "Oh, my grandfather's grandfather was Taruk Moktau. He united all the tribes."
Yeah.
And that's like an hour before this, but that's like almost like a side thought.
Yeah.
And obviously, it's a little bit of foreshadowing, but you know,
Yeah.
You do
My
nothing
favorite-
to build to it.
Yeah.
my favorite video game is Horizon Zero Dawn, which if any of you haven't played it, it is post-apocalyptic. There's a whole bunch of tribes of humans and robot dinosaurs. It's really cool. But as you go adventuring around, you always find envoys from each tribe in the settlements of the other tribes. So you may be in like a desert city with this desert tribe, but there's a guy who's like from one of the winter tribes, just like chilling in a corner somewhere, and you can be like, "Hey, why are you in Meridian?" And he's like, "Well, I'm an envoy from the Banuk tribe," and like you can talk to him.
Yeah.
I think it would be really cool if at some point you just had visitors like from these other tribes chilling at Home Tree, and you can literally just like a 15-second phrase, just be like, "Oh, hey, these other tribes heard we have a dream walker living with us and they wanted to come meet you."
Yeah. I
End of
think
scene.
I think the only I think there's two sides to this, right? If you want it to seem like they have peaceful interactions between the tribes, I think that's a good idea to do. However, if they're and again, this is never painted in the actual movie.
Mhm.
If they're painted as warring tribes, I can understand why you wouldn't have envoys or why you
They're-
wouldn't have some sort of political system, right?
They're not at all. I mean,
But
they're-
that-
yeah.
Like I think that's what they were going for, because you need someone usually to unite warring tribes or tribes that are not. That's like a stereotypical fucking bullshit other topic, which we'll get into. But that idea for warring tribes is something that's like kind of cliche and established, so that makes sense to me if that's what you wanted to paint that as. But you never tell me that that's the case.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So I don't know, and I don't know about them until like a certain point.
Yeah. And I mean, they're kind of doing it backwards, where like they're doing 4 sequels and they mention 4 other tribes that they linked up with, like they ride out to the 4 winds. I have a
Yeah.
feeling each sequel is going to deal with like
Oh
another
yeah.
tribe.
Hmm.
Oh yeah.
And it's like,
But you need to have the groundwork
yeah.
of knowing those
You're doing it
tribes
backwards.
exist.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, and I would argue that the first movie, if you want to do that for your 4 or however many sequels you will end up making, you should have done it there. And I don't think we have more people is a good way to do that.
Yeah. And again, I think that's just an easy issue to fix, where you literally need one scene somewhere in the middle of the movie to have physical Navi from another tribe at the home tree for some reason. And however you want to spin that, whether they're on good diplomatic relations or, you know, hey, this is a potential peace talk, whatever the hell.
Mm-hmm.
You just need to have that happen.
Yeah. Yeah, or even when he's doing his training or something, maybe they're flying by and then she's just like, oh, that over there, those are like, that's the water tribe. Like,
Yeah.
they live on the beaches there that happen to go near them or something.
Yeah.
But, yeah, like, they could have acknowledged it at least a little bit.
You could also do it in like, and again, this is adding stuff, but you could also do it in like some of the attacks on mining crews or all the others are not just the Navi from the home tree. You could do it that way
Yeah.
too, so that
They-
you know you don't necessarily have to have them interact, so you can keep that issue of maybe they don't like each other,
Yeah.
but they all hate the military.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's true. These happen to be the ones sitting on the giant unobtainium
Yes.
deposit.
Yes. That I feel like that could be a really good way to do that.
Yeah.
Okay.
What are we taking out? Because we're adding a lot of shit, and it's going to be a 6-hour marathon of a movie at this rate.
Well,
What are we taking out?
I think we're definitely taking out, like, those audio logs, right? We want it.
Yep.
We want a better way of
But we're
exposition.
replacing those.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but you can. I think you can replace them quicker, and,
Yeah.
and you can replace them with showing rather than telling, too.
Yeah. Kind of replace them with more scenes of, like, him and Norm, or him and Grace interacting,
Yeah.
growing that bond a little better. Maybe even more of the bond with, was it Trudy? Because I feel like they just kind of talk to her once at the beginning, and it's just like, oh, she's Michelle Rodriguez, so she's an important character. So,
Yeah.
because there's no real reason for her to care about any of this, other than she happens to be the one flying them every time, and there's no real connection developed.
My problem with taking things out of this movie is, as long as it is a very tight movie.
I agree.
There is very little in this movie that jumps out to me as, like, why is this here?
Yeah.
Other than the things that make me go, like the video logs that make me go, I understand why this is here, but it could have been done better. There's nothing in this 2.5-hour runtime that I get bored or distracted by.
Yeah, I agree. I had that when writing all my notes, kind of thinking, like, it's hard to remove anything here. I could definitely rearrange some stuff or just, like, replace certain things, do it a different way.
Yeah.
But the timing, yeah, I think it all kind of, I see what they were going for and why that these things are there.
Yeah. And I honestly don't find the runtime that much of an issue. I mean, like, let's see. We live in a world where, like, Endgame was 3 hours long. And that was a perfectly good example of a movie that used every goddamn second of its screen time exactly how it needed to. And then, I hate to use another Marvel movie, you have Eternals, which was 2.5 hours long, And my God, that movie could have been 90 minutes and it would have been just fine.
I've not seen Eternals.
You're better off for it.
I think the only issue I have with that comparison is you have to, if you want to open and shut Avatar, which I would argue that you don't, especially with stuff coming out in December.
Mhm.
If you want to open and shut it, I agree with you.
Mhm.
But when you make that comparison to Endgame was shutting everything.
Mm.
So you had everything to play with, right?
Yeah.
You had all of the open ends from everything that you have to now close up, figure out where people are, get them in this to finish it, right?
But I mean,
Yeah,
that's not necessarily completely fair because I mean, the Lord of the Rings movies are all like 3.5 hours. And one of them is opening, one of them is just the middle of a trilogy, and the last one's closing. And then for standalone movies, The Wolf of Wall Street's like 3 hours long.
So the issue I have is I would be okay with comparing this more towards Fellowship if you want to make a comparison, right? I think that's the most correct way to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that that's structured, which we can do that at some point if we really want to, the way that that's structured has you have a semi-rewarding this is still going on ending. I would also argue that this movie really doesn't have that, in my opinion.
Oh yeah, this movie is completely standalone.
You could open and shut it and it's done. Which I think is another fault, but that's beside the point. Jumping ahead. Yeah, I think it's semantics on the comparison, though. Right?
And that's where I would consider it more to, The Wolf of Wall Street, where
You could.
I primarily view this movie as a self-contained movie. And then I have a feeling the sequels will be like a completely separate storyline.
I think they will be open and shut storylines, yeah.
I don't know. I have a feeling these next movies are going to be more of like a 4-movie series that are all one big story. A good example of that is the Ender's Game book series. Ender's Game, the book, is a contained story.
Yes.
And it has an open-ended ending, just like this movie has, where like, oh, there's possibilities, but we're not going to talk about them. And then the next 3 books in the series, Speaker for the Dead, Xenocide, and Children of the Mind, are one story basically told over a trilogy. So what you end up with is a standalone book and then a trilogy that are taken together as a 4-book story. And I have a feeling that's what this is going to be, but we don't need to conjecture too much about that.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think the runtime is a big issue because it's a tight as hell movie.
Yeah.
And we're only gonna make it tighter.
Bonk. Alright, Josh, you've been quiet. What you got for us?
He's got a don't look at me look. That's what he's got.
Fresh off the watch.
yeah. Credits rolled about 20 minutes ago, so I have now officially rewatched the movie. I don't know. I guess my biggest issue with the movie is a thematic issue.
Yeah.
Just how much it leaned on like inbuilt parallels to like the treatment of Native Americans in U.S. history. In pretty much every interaction between the two, it follows some kind of parallel to early U.S. history, with the schools, it seems a little U.S. centric and it seems a little exploitative. I understand, I guess, where they wanted to go with let's be respecting of cultures and try and understand and try and learn. But it just felt very exploitative of kind of some pretty awful shit that
Yeah.
we've done in the past, and it kind of hand waved and said, "Oh, this is the right way. We'll learn from each other, and they'll forgive us for burning down homes and burying people under schools, because that's
Murdering your churches
it's
and
awful."
burning.
Yeah. Well, and that
But
is
his kids do no reference.
on. I mean, like, in the scene where Jake first gets on the base and reels in and Quaritch is giving his little speech, like, there's a fun little detail where the window blinds behind him look like stripes, and then in the top left corner, there's a 50 emblem. So it's an American flag, but with the number 50 instead of 50 stars.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So they knew what they were doing.
Oh,
It's
100%.
100% what it is. No,
Yeah.
that's what, if you want to put, and knowing him, that's the commentary to it, right?
As far as I know, the writers of this movie adamantly assert that the commentary of this movie is an environmental one.
Yes and no. But sure, you can say that.
Yeah, it just feels like this is exactly what we should have done, but we didn't because we were assholes.
But you could also... Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, that for me, literally, like, the first thing I think I wrote in my notes was about, like, this is just straight up the Native Americans being slaughtered. And except this time, one of the white guys decides to step up and be like, hey, let's not do this.
So it draws the joking parallel that we said earlier, half in jest anyway, to Dances with Wolves.
Or The Last Samurai.
We're gonna go with Dances with Wolves.
I'm sorry, you put some respect on Tom Cruise's name. Don't actually put respect on Tom Cruise's name.
Scientology.
Try and follow my line of logic here.
Yes, I'm with you. Let's go.
Go on.
But so this parallel gets drawn a lot with these two movies, and I think I find the critical difference between the two, or one I find exploitative in their usage of these kind of cultural memories, versus the other. Dances with Wolves is actually about Native Americans in the American West, and it is actually kind of chronicling the horrific treatment that occurred, where this film is taking those horrific cultural memories and these awful things that have been done in the past and using it as fodder in an entertainment piece more than anything else. I don't know where you guys fall on that.
I don't know if I follow entirely. I will be honest.
Let me see if I can restate
This
that
is
for
a
you,
good.
Bob.
This is a good point in time to say I haven't seen Dances with Wolves.
Neither have I.
So, correct me if I'm wrong here, Josh. I can try to say it a different way. Is both of these films use the theme of colonialism. However, Dances with Wolves uses it literally with actual Americans and actual Native Americans and actually addresses the issues with colonialism by showing the terrible shit that happened to Native Americans. Meanwhile, in this movie, they're just using the themes of, they're making these, like, back alley allusions to Native American history as a plot point.
Yeah.
I don't. So then my secondary question, and hopefully my expansion into this topic, becomes: what would be the difference maker to lean it more in Dances with Wolves direction than in a cheap entertainment value direction.
I think you need to lean it in the other direction.
I don't know what that
Frankly.
means. What do you mean? I mean away from it?
Yeah, lean away from the parallel.
Mhm.
If you want to have this be an environmental piece, then you need to draw far less thinly veiled allusions to Native, like the U.S. Native Americans, because it's not even like a broad allusion to indigenous peoples everywhere. There are so much iconography and straight up. Oh, we went to the plains for the horse Navi, or we went to the East Coast for the East Coast, the coastal Navi. Like it's very seems U.S. centric, and the veil I think between the representation and the source material is far too thin to be done really respectfully. So
I
maybe
don't disagree, but how are you going to go about doing that? Becomes my next question.
So, Josh, do you have statements on this? Because this is my first big correction that I would make to this movie.
how about it?
Change it less from colonialism and more towards capitalism. Make it so one of my biggest issues with this movie is you have Parker, right? He is the head of the RDA at Hell's Gate. He is the one running the show. He is Quaritch's boss, he is Grace's boss. He runs the facility.
Mm-hmm.
After Home Tree goes down, you see him in 2 scenes and he has no spoken lines. You see him like looking sad at one point as they go to attack the Tree of Souls, and you see him walking out of Hell's Gate onto one of the ships. Make him a bigger part of the baddies and make it more about capitalism. Make it not that they're after land, which they are. They are after land to mine on, but I mean, like, America's manifest destiny was we need land. Make this about money. Constantly remind us that this is the RDA trying to get rich at no matter the cost. Make it not about, get rid of these parallels and instead make it about the exploitation of those who have less power than you. And the way I would do this is I would have Navi involved in the Avatar project. I would have several Navi for whatever reason who aren't part of the tribe. Maybe they accidentally, damaged some sacred site, or maybe they pissed off the wrong person, they get exiled. Have the science program bring them in and have them be part of the Avatar program. And then this also goes on to how we can have a lot of the avatars fighting with the humans in the battle scene at the end. So that way you have like avatars and Navi and humans all on both sides of the conflict, and it becomes less of a racial narrative and more of a exploitation of resources and economy and power narrative.
Because basically what you have as the main conflict in this, and the theme on the side of the RDA, is this theme that has become more and more popular to talk about lately of what's called corporate colonialism.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's not nations taking land, it's corporations stripping value from that land. And it's a much different process and a much different set of problems than traditional like manifest destiny colonialism. So I agree with that. I think it should be less of a maybe a less focus on these people are different than us, therefore they're bad, therefore we're going to take what we want and kill them, and more of a manipulation. because that is how corporate colonialism works. It is not always tanks and guns and bombs, though it does involve that sometimes. But it is buying people out of land when they have no other choice. It's using people within their own communities that they trust to betray them.
Or the fact that
That's
60% of chocolate sold in America probably was made using slave labor. Just saying.
Oh well, I mean, okay. I think there are two issues that I take with the idea. Issue one is I don't know how much of a departure that would be to distinguish itself independently. I don't know if going down and focusing on that route, if it makes it unique enough that you don't have the same issue.
Oh no, you're in a an analysis of a power structure like this. You're always going to have dialogue that involves racism. You know,
I
or
think you can make it.
dehumanization. Well, denominization.
I like that one. I think doing so will take it more away from manifest destiny ideals and westward expansion in U.S. history, but I don't think it takes away from the corporate colonialism of the East India Trading Company and all of these other things that did similar things just across seas. So I don't know if I don't know if that's actually gonna take it far enough away to get the result that you want. The other thing as well is isn't that what it's supposed to be? Because isn't the entire purpose of the Avatar project to cooperate and work with the Na'vi to get them to let go of the land that they have or move off the land that they have in a peaceful manner, which then fails and the military takes over in this corporate ideal of colonialism?
Yeah, and that's why the Avatar program's bad. The Avatar program in this movie is an inherently bad thing. And that's another thing I don't really think gets discussed enough in this movie. Is just because you're being nice about being a shithead doesn't mean you're not being a shithead. And that's what the Avatar program is.
Yes.
And then obviously Jake and Grace and Norm break away from that and defect. But still.
But I don't. So I don't know how you would pull back. Like, I understand what you're looking to do, and I don't disagree with it, but I don't know how you do it in an effective manner.
It's easy. Talk about money more.
Yeah, but I don't
bring up the RDA's profits in this movie and how they see the Na'vi as an obstruction to their profits every chance you get.
I don't know about that.
I don't know if that changes anything.
Because
that is what it is.
Quite a bit.
Yeah,
they talk about it a little bit in the first half of the movie.
Well, but the second, second, third quarter of the movie is all him doing native shit, Na'vi shit. Yeah. Which also, can we talk about how Na'vi native? But we can fucking whatever. That's sketchy. And always will be.
That's my biggest issue with it is not how they do it. It's how thin the veil is to the source material.
Yeah.
And how the source material is the wrong source material for the. If they wanted to have a talk about manifest destiny and in humans' inherent need to expand and colonize and claim what's theoretically unclaimed as their own, then that source material is the correct source material, right? Because that is 100% what Europeans did to the Native Americans.
Yes.
They want to talk about corporate capitalism, or not corporate corporate colonialism. That's a different story, and that's a different source material because that's not really happening. It is to a degree, but more so in other areas of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Banana Republics is another good example if you want to do that.
the veil needs to be a little bit thicker for it to not feel kind of exploitive or exploitative rather.
Yeah.
It's really I have a small issue with some of the parallels that are that thin. Like again, oh, we went to the plains for the horse Navi.
Yeah.
Like that stuff like that is almost kind of that lazy writing of let's just take the plains Native Americans, paint them blue, and now we have horse Navi. That's what it feels like.
Mhm.
I agree. And I don't know what to change to do that.
It's just small tonal adjustments through the entire movie. There's nothing really you're going to point out that is a systemic flaw. You know, because the problem here isn't that there's one or two things that cause this kind of issue. It's the depiction of the Na'vi and the relationship with humans throughout the entire movie. You need to make a lot of tweaks throughout it. And whether you want to go with Josh, or you just want to mask those a little bit so it feels less exploitative, or you try to just take an entirely different narrative route so you know, avoid certain implications entirely. I think probably Josh has the better of it, is it's probably just better to, you know, figure out where you're being shitty and not be shitty.
Yeah.
Another part of it comes into is there is a lot of narrative that exists in the American mind that has this white savior kind of approach to it. As I joked about earlier, The Last Samurai is also another good example of that.
Yes.
And a lot of those stories have to do with Native Americans. So when you bring in a human character and you introduce them to, you know, another species and have him solve all your problems, it leads to those parallels to the stories we already know exist. Because, you know, maybe we wouldn't think about these parallels between the Na'vi and Native Americans if Dances with Wolves wasn't already a thing and we didn't so easily draw parallels to that movie. So I think you need to change the narrative structure as well and make it so more Na'vi have more agency. Because there aren't many Na'vi that actually drive plot in this movie.
No, there aren't. I can think of maybe two. Then again, I haven't watched it.
I can think of like two Na'vi main characters in all reality: Natiri and Tasute.
Yeah.
Natiri's parents are around, but they don't really do a whole lot.
Yeah.
They have spoken dialogue, but So this here brings another one of my changes. The scene where he gets Taruk is quite possibly one of my least favorite scenes in cinema.
Yeah.
Hands down. Without a doubt. Where he just jumps off the back of his Banshee and he lands on Taruk from his perspective and then cut to him riding it. Fuck that. You're getting into some, like... And, like, the scene where, like, in the beginning, where he gets, like, covered in, like, the sacred seeds, and Natiri's like, oh my god, Awa's chosen you for something. Like, Jake Sully consistently does shit in this movie through the power of, like, white people, is how I would put it. Like...
Yeah.
And I say that because he is the white savior of this story.
Yes.
He like... According to that trope, he has to be better at than pretty much anyone at everything else.
Yes.
Give the Na'vi more shit to do. When he captures Taruk, have Tasute coming to try to do the same thing. And have them fight over it. And have him win, but make him earn it. Also, when he takes down the bomber, he throws the grenade in the vent of the bomber. Well, like, 2 minutes earlier, Tasute had jumped into the back of the bomber, killed, like, 2 people, and got shot to death and falls out, and that's it.
Yeah, that was...
It's dumb.
Yeah.
have Jake and Tasute land on the shuttle together and kick ass. Have Tasute die, saving Jake's life so he can take down the bomber. Give him agency. Make it so these Na'vi characters, even if you want to kill them like you do, make their sacrifices meaningful in a narrative way. So it's not just Jake Sully doing shit, the movie.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like they kill a lot of people just for the sake of having these slow motion shots of these people dying, even though they are kind of main characters. Like, the other one that comes to mind is Norm, when his avatar dies. He doesn't die. But he's just there in the forest shooting at a bunch of the military guys, and he just gets shot, and they're like, okay, his character's dead, or his avatar's dead. I don't know why we're supposed to really care, because especially it being an avatar, it makes it very low stakes for him.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like, ah, shit, now I just wake up in the pod.
And see, what I would do there is, again, we're getting rid of all of Jake's, like, chosen one shit in my rewriting of this. You know how the animals show up at the end and, like, Awa heard you? It's a nice scene. Fuck it. I want the animals to show up because as Norm is laying dying, he links with an animal and sees, like, what's, like, and that is how, like, nature is, like, these humans are fighting to save nature. Like, have an animal link up with Norm, feel Norm's, commitment to saving the Na'vi people and the environment of Pandora, and then, because we've established Pandora's one big network, have that what brings all the animals to help in the final fight. And that would give Norm's death meaning, too.
Yeah.
Norm's avatar's death meaning.
Norm's avatar's death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that actually a lot. And then it's less of a Awa ex machina when she decides to help now, even though Jake asked like 3 days ago. But sure, thanks for your delayed timing. Like, it just doesn't really make it, just becomes like, oh, this is just because they need to save the day. It's gonna happen now. But at least yeah.
That's another one you talked about where Jake like comes up to Awa and he's like, Awa, I need your help. Which, fuck off. Don't say I need your help. Like, passive verb that shit. You're talking to a god. Help me. Like we need your help. Not I need your help. Jake, this is bigger than you. Fuck off.
But he's the chosen one.
But he's the white one. Sorry, I'm not gonna stop. The other one is, if you want to keep this like Awa divine intervention, when he's talking to Awa there, have Natiri having the conversation with him. Have Natiri and Jake linked up to the tree going, Awa, help us. Again, bringing more Na'vi into positions with agency.
Yeah, now that I'm slowly piecing together what I remember of this movie, it is actually absurd how little the fucking real blue people do anything.
Yeah.
That is
like,
actually insane. The more that I think about it.
The scene where they get informed they're loading up the shuttle as a bomber, and Trudy is like, oh my god, they're loading up daisy cutters, and they're sitting there talking about a plan. They're in the shack and there isn't a fucking Na'vi there. You've got a collection of humans making the plans for the defense of the Tree of Souls, and you don't have a fucking Na'vi in the room?
Yeah.
Yeah, what the... Wait.
Yeah. If
Wait.
you watch this movie with half a critical eye, it is legitimately a, like...
Would special effects be pretty?
It is a very unethically told...
My floating
I think
islands.
it's the best way to put it.
Yeah, it is super white savior-y.
Yeah, it's pretty bad the more we break into it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
My
you
God.
you can redo a lot of that. Like, it makes sense to an extent that they know the humans, so they're going to tell the Na'vi how the humans work in some aspects. But they should still be more actively involved in helping. They know the terrain, they know the area, coming up with that plan together, rather than we're the white guys, we have this plan, listen to us because we know how the boom booms work, you guys don't. Like, that's all it is.
And that's where I would say, going back to what I said earlier, have a couple Na'vi evolved in the Avatar system. So that way, when they have these conversations, you're not only having humans relaying information to Na'vi, you are having Na'vi that have experienced the human side of Pandora's culture also relay that information.
You could even go it sort of in a direction. So, I mean, basically, the way we're looking at it right now, I feel like we've kind of restructured the entire story to start out from the beginning, almost as if it's like before the school event happened. And we could have that school event happen and causes the disconnect halfway through the movie, rather than it being we come in like, oh, they no longer like us. Like, I feel like we could kind of rearrange it somewhere like that, so you see that break in the trust in the middle. I'm trying to think, as we talk about it, how to make that work. Maybe, but
I don't know if I would do it in the middle, because you still need the Na'vi and the humans to be on rocky territory when Jake gets there, because that's why it's impressive he gets to Home Tree. If
Yeah, I
everybody's
guess that's
buddy-buddy
true.
in the beginning, then, there's no reason for him to be any kind of remarkable. Which,
Yeah, I think
we-
him not being there for that school event, I think, is
So,
critical.
so then even you could have the school event kind of be the beginning of the movie. So it starts out with the program being okay,
But the younglings.
and then it breaks. And then it breaks pretty early on. We physically see that event happen.
Mhm.
And then
What
Jake comes in.
What I would do to sow even more discourse with Jake's character is, or discord with Jake's character, is when they ship him off, they tell him, this is an easy job, we've been making a lot of progress with the Na'vi, you just need to go to sleep for 6 years. You'll wake up, you get to hop in a body, you get to talk to some blue people, you'll be fine. Carry a gun around in case any animals attack. That's how the suits pitch it to Jake. We show him going into cryo sleep, ship takes off, and then we cut to the school scene.
I don't know if I agree with the idea of the school scene being very close to the beginning and shown. And here's my pitch. Lady whose name I keep forgetting
Natiri?
is
Natiri?
at no.
Grace?
Thank you.
Yep.
That was terrifyingly in sync. Please don't ever do that again.
Man, it would be helpful if you'd watch the movie, huh?
Yeah, it really would. I can't remember names on a good day. But so here's my elevator pitch for not doing that. You can use it as a vehicle for a characterization of Grace. And you can use it in a beneficial way to show how distraught she is by the anti-progress that has been made, and have it eat at her, and have it revealed later. Not necessarily, or have it revealed by in a slow build, but actually give you details of the event rather than the now, oh, we don't talk about that you have in the original cut, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think I would want to use it as a vehicle to help describe. I'm gonna say Nancy.
Grace?
Thank you.
How are you
Grace's
this
character.
bad at this?
I don't know, but you could definitely use it as a vehicle to help build up Grace.
So, how about this? We start the movie with the Na'vi and the humans on good terms. Not great terms, good terms. Talking terms. Now, when Jake gets attacked by the hammerhead rhino and then the big wolf monster in the beginning and he jumps off the waterfall, that waterfall pushes him too close to Home Tree. And that's why Natiri goes to kill him. Because even while the humans and the Na'vi are on good terms, humans still aren't allowed at Home Tree. So that's
Okay.
why she goes to kill him. Or
Okay.
whatever. And then Well, no, but we're getting rid
No,
of the chosen one shit.
I think you still need the school event. I think
Well,
you
no.
need them to be.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, is you have him end up at Home Tree, and we don't have the school at Home Tree. We have it somewhere in the woods. And then the school event happens while Jake is at Home Tree, and that is more friction with him and the Navi that he has to overcome.
I don't know if you could build it out in a way that's not even more white savior in a sense if he's there when the school event happens.
Yeah.
But you're getting into a problem there where if you don't want it at the beginning of the movie,
No. I don't want it shown at the beginning of the movie. A sequence of events. If you paint out sequence of events, yes, I want that while he's in cryosleep on the way over. That's fine. I agree with that. Showing it is what I'm not 100% on board with, because you could use it as a building block for Grace's character.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. I don't mean reorder when it happens.
Okay.
I mean reorder when you show it and how you describe it.
Yeah.
Because there's no way if you have that while he's there, and that happens, and he still has amazing, like, interactions with the Navi, even if he has to work for it a little bit. Mm-hmm. I think that makes your entire idea of, like, kicking the white savior narrative, I think that makes that worse.
Yeah, that's
in my opinion, because you're basically just giving him credibility for the sake of giving him credibility in that point, even if he has to earn it, right? Because he's now being held to such a higher esteem with such a horrible tragedy that happened with people that he's interacted with and people that he works for. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes a lot of sense that they would distrust Grace because of this event, because she was there.
Yeah.
Whereas you can't then apply a different logic to Jake.
That's
in my
fair.
opinion.
Okay.
Unless you have the power of women boners, but I don't think that's a good idea either, in the slightest.
Okay.
But that's what I meant by that. I didn't mean move it to somewhere else in the movie. I just, when you show it, like one of those like Vietnam style flashbacks, maybe cliche that shit.
Yeah, no, that tracks. Yeah, so you have the movie play out as it normally does, like how it is now. You know.
Yeah, maybe emphasize
the white savior
with
shit.
more allusion to
yeah
why they suck with the Navi now.
Yeah. Yeah, more of an emphasis that the Navi used to be involved with the Avatar program a little bit, possibly, like you said, too. And then that school thing happening while he's in cryosleep, whatever.
This also, in a way, fixes your where the hell are the other Avatar problem, too, right? Because if they had the highest rapport with Grace before this incident, they would still ideally hold the highest rapport with Grace after this incident and after seeing that she tried to protect whatever.
So now
right?
they only want to deal with Grace.
Exactly.
Yeah, they only want to deal with Grace, and they happen upon Jake, and because they like Jake and Jake likes Norm, then Norm can be involved in things.
Exactly.
But the rest of the avatars haven't earned the Navi's trust, so fuck them.
Yeah. It kind of half fixes your problem.
Yeah. Yeah, that tracks.
Okay.
Two birds with one stone right there. Pretty good for someone who doesn't know any of the characters' fucking names.
Sigourney Weaver is Nancy Pelosi.
Oh, shit! The name
I
I was thinking of, I was in fucking, like, Stranger Things mode, but sure.
But why did your voice just go up an octave and a half?
Because I hit my nuts.
Jesus Christ.
Okay. So, just like one or two smaller things. We need to give Trudy's character more screen time.
Yeah.
She goes out like a bitch, which is so sad. She shows up, fires like 4 bullets out of her machine gun at the big, like, Quaritch's big gunship, and then they just shoot her and she dies. And it's like, no.
I remember.
Right.
Oh my god. So watching the movie, in my mind, I remembered her dying being like this epic thing where I must have rewrote the movie in my mind where her helicopter was hit and she used it to like crash into an enemy ship to blow them up and sacrifice herself that way because she
Thought I
knew she
remembered
was
that
going
too.
to. But that doesn't happen. She just gets shot and gets blown up. And it
Ah,
like
And
you
it's
can
like-
use her like that. I feel like would be
Yeah.
a lot stronger. Be like she's already done. She's gonna go down, so she's gonna at least go down fighting one more time.
And again, you could bring her in to the scene where Jake and now Tasute are on top of the bomber. So you have Jake and Sute running on top of the bomber with Trudy as air support, and now you have a Navi, a human, and an avatar all stopping the bomb that's going to destroy the Tree of Souls. You have a perfect unity of all 3 groups of people.
Hmm.
And they together stop the bomb from falling. And you can kill Trudy and Tasute in that interaction and leave Jake where he needs to be to fight Quaritch.
Yeah.
The other way, and if you don't want to kill Tasute there, I would have Tasute die in the Battle of Quaritch. On the ground in the mech. Have Nakiri, Tasute, and Jake fighting Quaritch. You could kill Tsute there, but Tsute and Quaritch don't really have any interactions in the movie, so it wouldn't have a whole lot of weight. So
Yeah.
I do think it would be better for him to go out taking down the bomber. But if you
I
didn't
agree
want to
with
do
that.
that for some reason, yeah.
like a plan B.
You know what
No,
I
it's
feel
like no, it's like a plan C.
Josh, you go first, but I have some
I was gonna
thoughts
say
on that.
I like the idea maybe even of instead of just we take out this bomber by dropping a grenade down an air vent or an air intake.
Yeah.
Have it be something like they land on the back, like the back open doors, fight their way up to the cockpit to try and like stop this big bomber from reaching its target.
Mm-hmm.
Find out doesn't matter, it's on autopilot or something like that. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And have that that kind of disagreement of someone tries to take. Let me try and fucking think of this. Thinking this through as I'm coming up with it.
On the fly, that's what we like.
Basically, long story short, have the only way to stop this payload from being delivered is someone has to crash this goddamn bomber, and that's how Sute goes out.
That
Yeah,
could
I
work.
can see that.
The other thing I was thinking, it could pretty much like how the movie went, have that fight where they get onto. I didn't even know the guy's name. I just called him Ranger Rick in my head because that's what Grace calls him one time. But have that scene where he's in the dropship with like the final payload trying to get it there. Trudy's up in the sky shooting at them, fighting there, kind of distracting them from Tsute and Jake on top of the thing. And then he realizes what's happening. He takes the throttle to move the ship and fuck up Jake. But have the two of them together, Jake drops the grenade. Tsute is the one that tries to catch it somehow, can't really get it without like falling off or something I haven't worked out yet. Something where he
Quaritch
gets the
isn't in
grenade.
bomber.
What?
Quaritch isn't in the bomber. The scene where Quaritch
Well,
jerks
whatever
the
that
controls
final
to
thing is, I don't know what it is, but
Well, see, I think it would be more powerful to have Tsute going out on the bomber, not
Okay.
on Quaritch's gunship.
okay, I think I
Because
misunderstood
Tsute-
then.
Yeah, Tsute should go out saving the Tree of Souls.
The tree,
not
yeah.
taking down Quaritch.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then maybe you don't kill Trudy at the bomber scene. You have Trudy go down helping Jake take out Quaritch's gunship. Because then Trudy also gets a little bit of comeuppance on Quaritch.
Oh, okay, that gave me an idea. So now that I understand what we're talking about, yeah. So like Josh said, he goes inside. He doesn't just get shot and fall. He actually kills the guys and goes in and tries to stop that bomber. We have Tsute do that. Then we have Jake and Trudy trying to take down Ranger Rick. We have the thing still happen where he knocks Jake off. Jake drops the grenades. They don't land on anything to take down the ship. So that's when he shoots down Trudy, but Trudy, in a last-ditch effort, has to crash in to kill Ranger Rick. Or kill the ship, even though Ranger Rick can still escape, but that's her final thing. So it's at least more of an attempt to make things right.
Mm-hmm.
I think that could work a little better.
Yeah, no, that would work. I wouldn't have Tsute go down by crashing the ship. I would have him alone on the ship. And, he doesn't know how to fly a fucking space shuttle, right?
I was the only one that thought this. I'm just expecting him with his hair braid trying to, like, dance it on the control panel.
Oh, no.
Just, like, looking for a USB port.
It won't bond with me.
Have him say fuck it and blow up daisy cutters with him in it.
Ooh.
That could work.
I don't know
Okay.
how he would know how to blow up daisy cutters, but maybe Jake could have shown him how explosives work.
I mean,
Well, I was gonna say you can also give. I feel like that's another thing too. We can also show him how to fly a ship. We have Trudy.
Yeah. Or we could just have Jake have handed him a grenade. Like, he could have some of the grenades on his belt.
Yeah, he could have a grenade, just put it on top of the daisy cutters and pull the pin. And
Yeah.
that's how he goes out.
Yeah.
Blow up the shuttle in mid-flight. It would look so badass.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm for it.
Because the way you could do it would be, he's got one of the communicators. You
Yeah.
have him land
Oh, yeah,
on...
he does.
He has one of the communicators. So you have him on, like, communicating to Jake, like, I'm on this ship. It's gonna drop the payload automatically in, like, 15 seconds. I don't know how to fly a shuttle. How the fuck do I stop this?
You could also
And then-
have someone give him instructions to pull like the blue and red wire too, and do it that way.
You could either have somebody you could have him say, I need to stop this, and then convince Jake, how do I crash this? Or you could have a scene where Jake is like, I can't get to you. I cannot fix this situation. I cannot get to the ship to crash it myself or stop anything. And Tsute realizes, I have to do something. He blows up daisy cutters.
All up to you, Ron.
Yeah, and that's an example where you have someone die because Jake did something wrong. Because
Yeah,
he
I like
couldn't
that.
get there in time.
I like making my main characters flawed. I like that.
Yes.
Yeah. Alright, I like that a lot. So that...
Also, generally, for the rest of the podcast going forward, know that I also love terrible endings in the sense that I don't want things to be happy.
Well,
sorry.
like bittersweet ending.
we'll actually come back to that. I have a major rewrite, but it has to be the last thing we talk about.
Okay.
So
Okay.
Okay. Yeah. So, I guess we don't have a lot of specifics on the middle part. We just want more interaction with the people, the Na'vi, and the avatars. Just more character development in the middle, more evil corporate greed.
Evil shenanigans.
But then we have obviously these pretty good ideas for the fight scene, make that more interesting.
Also, incredibly slight, while we're kind of between conversation points here, incredible slight nitpick. The Na'vi arrows have feathers on them, and we do not see a feathered creature once in this goddamn movie.
I've never noticed that. Jesus Christ.
damn good point.
They somehow milk the banshees to get feathers.
Yeah. Just, if you're gonna do world
Ew.
building, you need to think about these things.
It's the spider web from Shrek. That's what it is.
The cotton candy spiderweb?
Yeah, yeah. It's not actually feathers.
Oh.
Bitch, you thought.
But yeah, I I did like Natiri being the one to actually kill Quaritch. That was a good example.
Yes.
That is like the only instance of a Navi having actual agency and doing something in the story, so we're cool with that.
They give it to Natiri.
Yes. Honestly, I think that's all of my notes. I think we're through everything I had.
Yeah, so I don't know if we want to go into Josh's big idea
I
for
was
the
gonna say,
ending
what's
now.
this big bombshell? What's happening?
We
What bombs we
don't
drop-
make
what
the
bombs we
movie.
dropping? what bombs we dropping?
We fired
Obviously not in
James
the Tree of
Cameron and
Souls.
hired Tim Burton.
Here's the. So here's the thing. This movie, right now, is almost 3 hours long. We have added probably an hour and a half. At least.
It's the Snyder cut, baby.
So, my suggestion:
Make it 2 movies?
make it 2 movies.
Oh,
Split it at the fall of the home
this is
tree.
very uneventful.
Yeah, split it at the fall of the home tree.
All right. Well,
I was expecting some like profound shit, and I'm kind of slightly disappointed.
No,
that it's not
I like that.
completely
I do
profound.
like that.
no.
I like it. It's a
I-
great idea. I agree
Yeah.
completely. I like it. You could have it settle at the end of the home tree thing, and then do the Tree of Souls thing later. Like, yeah, and then
That would be how. Yeah, that would be how I do it. We do a bunch more world building in that first movie, because the fall of home
just
tree
Nan-
is
Yeah.
really
Nancy's
almost the
dead.
midpoint of the movie.
Nancy,
Like we've
fuck,
got
Nancy Pelosi?
Jesus Christ.
fuck,
We-
Grace is death. That's where you can end it. Fuck me.
What?
You-
No, Grace's death is
No,
much
that's
further
too
in
late.
now.
Is it too far?
That's-
Is it too
yeah.
farther down the
Yeah.
line? No,
But-
bring that shit up.
Because
No,
that's
bring
Bring that shit
after,
up.
Just
Just move it earlier.
after that's
my
after
point.
that's after Jake
Let you
reunites with the Navi.
talk for 2 hours. Look, I've got one talking point. Let me get through it.
Speak, my child.
God damn it. Your first movie, we add in the world building aspects we
Why
want.
don't the
There's
Navi have pets?
Jesus Christ.
I thought about doing it, but I didn't want to be the asshole.
Okay, go ahead.
Josh, we love you.
Fuck off.
Love you.
Get through the first movie. We do a bunch of the more world building stuff. There's still plenty of conflict because the conflict is mostly in that aspect, the building tension to, is this horrible massacre going to happen? And can it be avoided? Your payoff for that, your pinnacle of the action, the climax, is the moment that they decide, all right, we're going to level it, switch to HEs. The massacre happens, and that is our end point. We end with our main conspirators here who just tried to run rogue getting arrested and putting into their jail cells.
Mhm.
That is the end of the movie. We end it with the home tree on fire and toppled, a lot of Navi dead, this burgeoning bond almost irrevocably or seemingly irrevocably broken. And the people who have been the only ones on this side of the fence trying to help are now imprisoned. Because that lets you open that next movie, breaking them out.
Which Trudy should. I hate to say this. Trudy should be in jail too. That is another one of my story complaints. Is Trudy's the one that
Oh,
breaks
yeah.
them out? And remember, during the massacre of the home tree, she just fucks off. She
Yeah.
refuses to fire missiles and fucks off. You would be thrown in the goddamn brig so fast.
I agree that Trudy should be one of the ones arrested.
Yeah.
But you know
Because
who
we're giving her a
shouldn't be?
bigger part of the movie.
You know who shouldn't be
Hmm.
and should be the one to break her out
Mm-hmm.
and break all of them out? Her door gunner.
What?
No, but the door gunner
What?
turns out to be an asshole and he gets his shit stomped in by a hammerhead rhino.
But he doesn't
Yeah.
have to be an asshole.
Yeah, I guess you could
Yeah.
you could rewrite him and
There was
have him
nothing
be.
leading up to that point to make him an asshole.
He
Fair
just
enough.
was because he
Yeah.
could be.
But there needs to be more defectors.
Yeah.
That is another issue I had with this, that you're telling me in this massive, like, military complex that there are a grand total of 4 motherfuckers who think this is morally reprehensible.
Mm-hmm.
4 people.
And
Nah.
only like 2 of them are
There's gotta be
soldiers.
more. There has got to be more.
Yeah. I could also see it being that other scientist, Max, who's feeding them information.
Yeah,
You could do
the
that as
doctor.
well. Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah, they-
I like that better than the.
He needs
door
more character
gunner.
development too.
he does.
Yeah.
I'd be fine with that too. Actually, that would be a good setup for him feeding them information, because that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There was no
Because-
lead up to him defecting. It was just, oh, he's telling them information, so he must be on their side.
Well,
that would actually be a really good person to break them out.
he did come with Trudy on the breakout in the
Yeah.
in the actual movie. Him and Trudy were the ones who broke them out. And
Okay,
then remember, Jake says like, Max, I need you to stay here. I need someone on the inside."
Fair enough. So we just do that, and we do it the same way, but
Yeah.
that is your opening.
Yeah, and we could
Yeah.
probably split it into 2-hour, maybe 2.5-hour movies.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
there's still a lot of
2-hour
content.
movie is probably what it would come out to be.
Yeah.
And then you can add a little bit onto that second movie, like we talked about, of more development of the other tribes,
Mm-hmm.
because then your rising conflict in that is re-earning the trust of the Navi
Mhm.
of this particular tribe and earning the trust of the other one.
Yeah.
And that includes your changes to the fight for Turok and kind of that whole process. I think you can squeak out 2-ish plus hour movies out of this rewrite
Yeah.
if we add in the things we want, because I agree. I don't think there's anything I want to take out of this movie, really. Yeah, the narration's a little ham-handed. I go back and forth on it. I kind of like it personally because it's a little bit of a harken back to older storytelling, but I can live without it. But structurally, there's nothing really I want to take out of it. So if we're just adding in, we can't have a 5-hour movie. That's not realistic.
That sounds like quitter talk.
Schindler's
I mean, we
List.
could.
I saw Gettysburg. I can't say that with a straight face. I'm sorry.
We'll make it a Netflix miniseries.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Into the tree.
I don't know why I didn't think of that at all. Like, it didn't cross my mind to make it 2 separate movies, but I think it definitely would work a lot better.
Avatar: The Last Tree Bender.
Yes.
But
That
everything's
one's
changed
great.
with the Fire Nation.
The Colonel's definitely a firebender.
Oh, 100%.
We saw
Switch
those
to
explosives.
incendiaries.
I gotta say, he is a great villain. I think he is very badass,
good.
and he really lives that. Like, I am going to fuck you up.
He is, but he is just like a malevolent force.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, is warranted for this type of movie, but
Yeah.
I generally usually do not like malevolent forces.
We do need a little bit more development, I think, and I don't know how, of the Jeff Bezos post Bosley.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Parker.
Yeah.
We need the evil capitalist son of a bitch at the top of this organization to, have a little
Yes.
bit of meat and potatoes on him.
Yeah.
For anyone who's a video game player, we need a shepherd.
Yeah.
We have a Graves. We need a shepherd.
Yeah. He needs to be, I think, a little less. I didn't like the sassiness of his character, like, because he just seems like this flippant, like, I'm a corporate dickhead kind of character.
Yeah.
He needs more menace. He needs more malice.
Yeah.
Well, see, I disagree with that because I think if you're going to do some sort of commentary on how these sorts of mega corporations can be bad, We all remember how Reddit worshipped Elon Musk a few years ago. Because he was, that funny guy who shitposted memes on Twitter and he made electric
Yeah.
cars and cool stuff. I think it is perfectly fine for him to be this funny, flippant guy and then just have an incredibly dark inner core that comes out when he's telling Quaritch, go ahead and burn them.
Fair enough.
And
Yeah, I think just they need him. I think they tried to like, what's the word? Personalize him too much when the home tree fell, and him
yeah,
watching it and looking sad when he should have just been like, he should have been the one to make the final call, be like, light it up.
yeah.
Like they could have given him a little bit more evilness because yeah, he did try to they tried to give him too much of a like, oh no, but I feel bad about this a little
Yeah.
bit.
And if you want to make it a situation where you still keep the weight on Quaritch, you have him get to the home tree. You have Quaritch just jumping at the fucking bit to tear down home tree. And maybe Parker's, a little hesitant, but Quaritch, hits the key and goes, waiting, like, awaiting your signal. And Parker just, says, light him up. And then Quaritch relays that. Still keep the chain of command here.
Yeah.
Um, while making them both evil bastards.
Epi, you look like you had something to say to that.
Because, and I didn't hear all of it because I had to step away for a second. But I don't know. I don't know if you need necessarily to keep the chain of command, especially if you want your evil bastard to be the general.
It works for Darth Vader and the Emperor.
Yeah, but Darth Vader has a redemption arc.
Subversion of expectations. I can be Ryan Johnson. No. And I see what you're saying, but um keep the chain of command, but make it clear that Quaritch is pushing him into giving the okay. So have it, yeah, Parker has to sign off on it. Make it clear that Parker has to sign off on this shit. And make it clear that he understands the weight of this, but have Quaritch being the one who's pushing him into taking these actions. Which there's already a scene like that, where,
Yeah.
Quaritch is convincing him, hey, I'll drive him out with gas first. And, like, Parker, what I would do is that scene where Quaritch is saying, like, we'll drive him out with gas first. Initially Quaritch go to Parker and go, I want a level home tree. And Parker goes, stockholders won't like that. And
Mm.
then like you have Parker just go, tell me how we can make this work. And Quaritch goes, I have gas, we can gas him first. And make it a back and forth between the two of them, rather than just, Quaritch fully dictating what's happening. Have Quaritch still be in control, but have Parker still emphasizing that he's the person giving the orders and putting the rubber stamp on this. Because in my opinion, in this movie, while Quaritch is the guy who is the big villain, Parker's a worse person. Because Quaritch is an evil bastard, but Parker is the corporate evil bastard who is failing to rein in the people he is supposed to control. He is the person who is in the position of power, who is sitting back and watching it go down.
Yeah, I think you need him to lose that control set.
Well,
It
there's already
is.
a line in the movie where Max is like, "Oh, Quaritch is taken over," like
Well,
that.
no. Yeah.
Well, that would be like the second movie.
Yeah,
Because I just think we didn't give enough of the backbone in the beginning, but you should show him losing it a little
yeah.
more.
Yeah.
And that's fine. If you want to have Quaritch like take over control and kind of like oust Parker from command in the second movie, that's fine. And have him be the big bad villain of the second movie. but I want motherfucking Parker to be the one who says level the home tree right before the missiles fly.
Yeah. And then you can still have that looking sad after he sees it all, realizing how fucked up what he just did was. But I think
Yeah.
it has more of an impact if he's actually the one that's like lighted up.
Yeah.
You could also
yeah.
have it so that the intention is to move everyone from the home tree with the gas to his understanding and his visual from whatever he's able to see. He sees that that's okay. He calls for that order. They're not all gone. Have that weigh on him as well. But also do it so that it's almost a power move, too, for the general. And he basically has this entire lie chain to then take your command. That might be a way to do it, too.
Yeah. Regardless of how you do it, just Parker needs more characterization.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, a lot of characters
needs-
need more characterization. I
he
think
needs
that's
a lot-
blanket.
yeah.
They need more time,
Yeah.
which is saying a lot.
Yeah. Which is why 2 movies, Josh is a
Good
genius.
movies.
Sorry, it was so damn anticlimactic.
It was. I thought you were gonna drop some like terrible, awful bomb, and then it was just make them 2 movies, which isn't a terrible, awful bomb. It's a genius bomb, but like, I don't know. I was expecting some like controversial shit.
Yeah.
It wasn't controversial.
The
was
Navi
hyped
should
up.
be green. Camouflage is important.
Yeah, like I was expecting some controversial shit, and it wasn't controversial. It was genius, and I stand by that statement that it's genius.
I'm sure it would be
Now you're just
controversial
sucking
to
up.
many other people, but I mean, we're here to make the thing better.
Yeah.
Yes.
That
Yes.
makes the thing better.
Yes. More time makes the thing better. It makes a 4-movie series into a 5-movie series. Yay!
No, a 5-movie series into a 6-movie series. They're making 4 sequels.
Oh, how could they do that?
Oh, they're making 4
Fucking
sequels.
They're
animals.
making 4 sequels.
Oh, I thought they were making 4 total.
Let me fact check that.
I know I already saw an Avatar 2, the new Way of Water, and then I already saw an Avatar 3 slated for 2024.
I mean, it's great that he doesn't have to wait for technology again.
Yeah,
They're planning on going out to Avatar 5.
Huh.
they could have just split this. All right, so what we start with is still kind of a very similar beginning. We start off knowing there's a good or better relation with the Na'vi, kind of the preschool incident where they're working with the Avatar program a little bit. Then Jake gets pulled in, like, hey, we need you. Your brother died. You need to take his place use his Avatar. Because save money, greedy corporate world. He goes into cryosleep. While he's in cryosleep, it falls apart. That's when the school incident happens. We get there, and Jake is learning everything. Pretty much the same. More character development, more of that, like giving Parker more of a backbone, showing that. More with the Na'vi, maybe a little bit, since we're splitting this into 2 movies. Gain the trust with the Na'vi. They already know Grace from the school, even though she didn't save them from the school. They're able to semi-trust her as much as, compared to everyone else, she's the only one they really have that bond with. And then they have kind of Jake, and then Jake brings Norman, and so those are the 3 people, mainly like the spokespeople for the humans now. So then the big thing for that first movie is everything's building up to the fall of Home Tree and whether they're going to do it, try to get them out. They have that conversation with Ranger Rick, Parker. They want to gas them out humanely, quote unquote, to get them out. You have that big scene where the fight's happening. Pretty much all the other arguments I feel like still happen with Jake trying to talk them out of moving. All that is mostly the same. And then you have Parker in the screen looking at it. Gives him the order. He thinks everyone's out. Ranger Rick's like, yeah, we got them out. The gas cleared most of them out. They should be gone. He's okay. He sees that. Then he says, light them up. He sees everything go down, and actually more people come flying out of the tree because they're getting fucking murdered. and then the fall of the tree, they get arrested. That's the first movie, kind of cut somewhere around there. And then the start of the second movie would be, like we said, the breakout. And hopefully in the first movie, we've given more character development to either the gunner or just the scientist Max, just some other people. Maybe there's some sort of group of people that are like, yo, this is fucked up, we need to stop. More than just these 5 people that care. Everyone else has no soul. We go into that. They break out. Pretty much that same breakout sequence after that. Possibly just different characters, like we said. Trudy gets them off the base. Grace maybe still gets shot there and dies. That could be pretty much the same. Then we go into now Jake is trying to go rebuild that relationship with the Na'vi. So he goes to find Turok Mak'Tau, whatever that giant banshee was. Yeah. Him and Sute have a fight, because Sute's also trying to do that, because he needs to rally his people to fight back after this. So, like we had discussed, they can have some big epic fight scene now that we have extra time, because it's a whole new movie. They can have that fight scene. Somehow Jake pulls it out, but he earns it. He actually captures the beast, and then they go down, and they bring the Na'vi together, and then they start pulling together the relations with the other tribes, I believe.
Quick note. That's something I just thought of. If you're having Jake and Tsute fighting for Taruk Mak'Tau, I think it would be important for Jake to maybe let Tsute try first, because like he's the actual Na'vi. And then when Tsute fails, that's when Jake steps up, and Tsute is like, you don't deserve to even try this, you're a fucking outsider. And, you know, that's when the fight happens, and then Jake succeeds. It's not like Jake is trying to prevent Tsute from getting to Taruk Mak'Tau. We want to establish that he let that happen, and then he's the one who manages to pull it off.
Yeah.
Because that way Jake's not an asshole.
Yeah, that makes more sense, and that way you kind of understand when Sute, after that, like,
Respect.
Jake has gained his respect because they both tried, and he was the one that pulled it off. So it's not necessarily a fight on top of the fucking thing, both trying to stick their hair into the thing, but it's. Alright, and then you start the development of meeting the tribes. Maybe some sort of, it could still be kind of a montage, it doesn't need to be a lot, but just more time of them going to these other tribes, recruiting them, trying to get everyone to work together because of the situation and the fight, and Awa is gonna die. Then from there, we pretty much go into that final fight scene where I think is the most changes. We have pretty much the same, possibly avatars fighting on both sides, or Na'vi. I don't know how we address that in the others. We didn't really decide, I guess, but it was just something we had talked about. But we have the fight with the big airships. So Sute is on the bomber. Instead of dying, he manages to kill the people. He gets on the ship, realizes it's on autopilot of some kind, and they have that whole conversation over their transmitter. Be like, hey, I don't know what to do. Jake fucks up and tells him to do this one thing, and it actually blows up and kills Sute, so he goes out kind of a badass way, but it's also Jake's fault, so he has to live with that failure. Then we go into the fight with Jake. Now, he's got a lot going on. He's still trying. He's devastated from fucking it up and killing Tsute pretty much now. And Ranger Rick kind of pulls him off. He falls off the shuttle. Trudy is, maybe she's the one that blows a side of the bomber or whatever he's on open, so that the mask thing still happens. They lose oxygen. He goes to jump off after Trudy gets hit, so she's going down, but she's above him, so she crashes into the ship that Rick was on before, well, he still gets off, but he gets off on that kind of Titanfall guy, and then goes down to the fight. Then we cut to maybe the Norm dying, the whole fight with the people, and then in his avatar's death, he connects with Awa. You have a little thing of kind of maybe him seeing the memories of the Na'vi, or seeing Awa, or something. It doesn't have to be too obvious, like it can just be a subtle little, like, memory thing. And that's when the animals start coming in and starts turning the tide for the ground part. And then the ending fight is pretty much the same. You have Jake and Natiri and Ranger Rick trying to kill him. And then they win the fight. Happy ending. Everyone's happy. They all leave the planet. Pretty much that ending is the same. Jake is transferred to his avatar. So he's like officially becomes a Na'vi. In a sense.
And I think the only thing you missed is in, kind of this second movie, specifically in this second movie, whenever any characters are having any conversations about how to help or save the Na'vi, there needs to be Na'vi in the goddamn room for it.
Yeah, there should be
And they need to have opinions.
Yeah, and they need to have
They need to
opinions.
not just be there.
Yeah, so there'll be a lot more interaction with the Na'vi. They'll have a lot more agency in planning this fight. The humans will give their insight on the technology that they have, but other than that, they can still plan together and do the rest and be like, this is what we need to do, and work together on that.
Yeah. It would be really cool to have a scene where, like, Jake is describing, like, the technical ability of the military. And you know how, like, in the fight, you have all the Banshees, like, waiting on the cliffs, and then they swoop down? It would be really cool to have a scene where Tazute is like, hey, there's this really nice, like, floating ravine right over the path where they're going to be going. We should set up, like, our flying hunters in there.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure that's, like, implied that the Na'vi, like, are the ones who, like, put that, like, came up with that plan, not Jake, but it's never really talked about.
Yeah, and if we split it into these two movies, you have a lot more of the time for that kind of exposition or interactions, these smaller character building and just plan building. Because they have it on the other side, because there's a scene where Ranger Rick is like, all right, we see they're recruiting all these tribes. We need to attack now before they get too powerful and overrun the facility. So, like, they just don't give anything really to the Na'vi side in the original.
And that's a perfect example, too, of showing where their expertise would be.
Yeah.
Like, we know this terrain better than you invaders ever will. Like,
Yeah. But, yeah, I think... Well, the first movie we've split into two. We'll see how many there are of those.
By the time, if we're still doing this by the time Avatar 5 comes out, we will have split this entire franchise into 12 movies.
Probably.
Probably longer than the actual Marvel Cinematic Universe.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Quality.
I've talked about it before. I think it's really weird that Avatar is one of the biggest movies of all time, and yet it has had, like, a zero cultural impact. Like, I laughed out loud when we got to the scene where Grace goes and talks to Parker, and she's like, Parker, I used to think it was, like, benign neglect, but now I see you're intentionally screwing with me. That is the most quoted thing I have heard from that movie, and I have heard it twice in my life. That's it. My old boss at my old job used to say that when talking about, like, some of upper management. He was like, yeah, I thought they were just benignly neglecting everything we were doing, but no, they're intentionally screwing with. So it's kind of really weird.
But it's not a very quotable movie.
Yeah, it's not.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the way it's told now is... It's a tight movie, but it's not a very powerful story because of all the things we've talked about here. I think with these changes, this would be able to take it to a more powerful, meaningful movie. And especially if you give more time for character development rather than story development, you will get those more meaningful interactions that people will, fucking quote at each other like they do with Star Wars.
Yeah.
Hopefully
Anyways.
make it something known more for the storytelling aspect rather than just it's a very pretty movie, because this is a damn
that's all it
pretty
is.
movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is a damn pretty movie for 2009.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah, and that it, like, was the highest selling or highest grossing movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. until I don't remember, did Infinity War or Endgame?
It was
do it
Endgame.
out?
I thought.
Was it
I
Endgame?
thought.
Yeah, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, you just need to add like nice, quippy one-liners.
Yeah, just
you need.
Marvelify it.
No.
I
Oh,
want
you
Jake
need-
Sully to have
no,
a goddamn
no.
Iron Man suit.
You need to add the flavor of 2007 Academy Award nominated animated motion picture
Surf's Up.
lineup.
Always comes back to Surf's Up.
Always comes back to Surf's Up.
Well, guys, we succeeded in recording a totally short episode. That was
Nailed
not
it.
over 2 hours. Of course not.
And
Yeah.
that
What was our
definitely.
time check?
We're at 148.
Oh, it's not bad.
It's not
We're
terrible.
under 2 hours.
That's what we like to see.
Welcome to another episode of 3.5 Critics, the show where three wildly unqualified friends and a cinema... Fuck!
Thank God. Thank God.
Minimum.
Thank
Never. I never lose my shit.
Welcome to another episode of 3.5 Critics, where three wildly unqualified and today unprepared friends and a cinema major break down some of fucking Christ, I lost my place.
you say end a cinema major like we don't like him.
This fucker.
This fucking asshole.
This is the second time it happened, and I've almost lost it both times.
Light it up and keep on the beat. Back it up, 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 back it up. Push up the truck and light up your lighter. We're going straight in, we don't need no chaser. Bang it on, keep it raw, show them what the bass is.